So Anthony, one of the things we've been wondering, you and I, have been what are the first 100 days of the Biden administration going to look like and how it will affect our owners and our tenants based on the laws or what is passed in that 100 days.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that comes to mind is um, relief for the tenants that are struggling, and that relief will make the difference, I'm sure, whether they're in business next year or not. And with that help, it also benefits our landlords that they're able to work out at least a payment plan for our tenants if they can't pay in full, so that they continue operating their business until this pandemic has passed.
So we already have the second round of PPP that was pushed through by the Trump administration. Do you envision there being a third round of PPP or some other stimulus that'll go directly to small businesses?
I would think there'd be some other small ones too. I know they've been talking about direct payments
Mm-hmm.
um, to individuals and other benefits that will keep them um, able to operate their businesses.
I don't know if you've read the headline yet, but week 1 of February, they've pushed through, at least the Senate last night, pushed through 80 pieces of legislation, 80 amendments. And I just can't recall a time that I've seen that much movement in the first 100 days of any administration.
Yes.
Seems pretty significant to have that much, between the executive orders and legislation. I think we have a lot to expect out of DC over the next few weeks. One thing I'm keeping an eye on, and I think will be very interesting, is what happens with eviction moratoriums, but also potentially mortgage forbearance for some of the landlords and single family home owners.
Yes. Those are issues that are hard to track, and they keep changing almost daily.
Yeah.
Some of the regulations and things they're passing. COVID has been a huge factor also. And I believe that once we get Johnson and Johnson, the third vaccine available, and we're able to now at a rapid pace expand, it will help all the businesses. Not only will the people be healthy, but they'll be feeling more comfortable, and the government will allow more businesses to be fully operational, which only benefits the family and the individual, but also the owners of those businesses, and as well.
Speaking of single family homeowners, the other interesting piece of legislation that seems to be moving its way through Washington at the moment is a $15,000 grant available to first-time homebuyers. Throughout COVID, it seems like we've seen a huge increase in demand for product, not just commercial and apartment product, but single-family homes. And I could imagine that additional stimulus for a new homebuyer, first-time homebuyer, is only going to drive up prices and continue to limit stock, supply of single-family homes. Any thoughts, concerns, pros, cons with something like that being pushed through?
I think it would be a really good thing for a first-time home buyer to be able to get in while interest rates are so low. I know that there's very little volume. There's not as much product and much more demand.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it is a good thing to have people be able to get into homes now. It only helps the economy when they're solidified in a home that they otherwise wouldn't be able to do, especially now with such low interest rates that they could be able to get more for their value.
So I know I'm going to move further and further into speculation at this point with this question, but I know we're nowhere near any of the same issues that we were during the 07, 08 housing crisis. It seems to be that loans are being originated more conservatively, they're being underwritten appropriately. But the huge increase, not even year over year, but month over month for housing prices, do you foresee any risk of a bubble with the cost of product?
There's always that risk that uh, we could overvalue to a point that um, it impacts the market. But I see that the more people, as time goes on, I think part of the reason uh, properties may not even be up for sale is because of COVID and the unwillingness to, at this time, try to make any moves. My thinking is that once the virus is under control,
Mm-hmm.
people again will be thinking about where do they want to move and what they want to do and not have to deal with all the issues of COVID in the sales process. So I'm hopeful that that will stimulate more properties to be on the market.
What else are you looking to see in the first 100 days? Anything that'll help the real estate market in terms of what's happening with infrastructure, highways, bridges, train systems? Do you foresee that impacting real estate in any substantial way?
I think it will take a little time to do that, but the more people that get back to work and are now getting a regular income and have the ability at these low interest rates to acquire property and feel that they can accumulate some money because they're working full time, um, I think it overall helps the market. Uh, but I don't see that being an immediate or the next 90 or 90 to 180 days.
Any other pieces that you'll be keeping an eye on for the first 100 days of the new administration?
Not that I can think of. What can you come up with any other ones that might be
I think
beneficial?
nothing that's beneficial to the real estate investor, but I think beneficial to the resident or tenant. And I think we touched on it, and it's definitely muddy waters, but it's the reality of the CDC extending the eviction moratorium federally. But obviously here in California, the states and municipalities are continuing to draw out those eviction moratoriums. And I think there's added risk for some investors, property owners, multifamily property owners that were not prepared with large reserves and have high vacancy or high delinquency rates to potentially start defaulting on loans. That's, I think, the risk that I'm most concerned about in the multifamily market. There's really been no relief to the property owner. There's some discussion, I think, at this point in the first 100 days to provide some relief federally. The state, through SB 91, is providing some relief to property owners, but nothing from the feds at this point.
Yeah.